So this time we are talking about the blog Friend Sick, which is quite embarrassing because I've had a lot of people. It shouldn't be embarrassing, should it? I've had a lot of lovely, lovely messages from people saying, "Are you all right?" People I haven't spoken to for ages, which is so nice. But it's like,
well, I think whenever you say, and I've put out posts online before that are a little rawer, and it can feel a bit
exposing,
yeah, and you can feel a little uncomfortable sometimes when you get a bit of feedback from that.
Yeah.
And it's actually, ironically, it's normally the feedback you want, because it is people reaching out to you and seeing if you're all right, and you're thinking, oh, actually, I've got all these wonderful people in my life. But then there's that, like you say, that sort of tinge of embarrassment, may be too far, but like that, just that opening up yourself, kind of.
No, I think I would go as far as embarrassment. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Embarrassed, uncomfortable, all of the above. So Friend Sick basically is about the fact that I've moved to California.
Yeah.
And I've lived a long time, most of my life, all of my life, really, apart from traveling in the UK. And I love adventure. I really love adventure, and I love meeting new people. That was one of the things I was most excited about, is meeting new people who do different things, who have different views on the world. I love that. And you would think that California isn't that different from the UK. But what I think it comes down to at the moment, because I feel quite homesick, is actually I'm friend sick.
Yeah.
Not homesick.
Well, and if you've lived, like you say, pretty much your entire life in one place, as in the UK, you do have a huge network of people. Well, not even a huge network of people. It's like it could be a very small network of people, but it's that closeness and those people that kind of know you the best. That is hard to kind of re-emulate. It takes time.
And it's the history, isn't it? Because, I can be an idiot and people who know me will be like, yes, that's Fee being an idiot.
Yeah.
Whereas someone new might look and think, she's a bit strange.
Yeah.
And if you're in your own environment, it doesn't matter if someone looks at you and thinks you're a bit strange, because you've still got your mates there. But I don't think I'd realize how much I depended on friendship and friends and people being there. And it's weird, because I think with Zoom, you think that it shouldn't be such an issue. But I don't know, maybe it's those false expectations that make it more tricky. But
well, and I guess, I was going to say, for you is also, there's a time difference as well, isn't it? So from a practicality point of view, like if you're wanting to Zoom with someone in the UK, it's got to be their evening or whatever, or morning. So there's that kind of aspect of it. So there's logistics around it. But we all know there's nothing like being in the company of someone.
Yeah, I mean, I think
having that physical connection with them.
I do think COVID kind of showed us that, because it's it was just like, it felt like you could almost just go when you're actually with someone rather than on Zoom. It's and like you were saying, Charles, Sophie's been away this week, and you've missed her. I think it is something, we do miss people. We care about people. We need people. They are sort of like, they become part of us as well. We're not. I think the thing is, in Western culture, we're told we're an individual and we should celebrate that, and we should celebrate being like independent of everything. But we're not. We're interconnected. And that doesn't mean that we're not unique. We are unique, but we are interconnected.
Yeah. And also, actually, it's funny, the friendship thing as well, because, that's that old cliche, like, you friends are the family you create for yourself, kind of thing. And it's so true.
It is.
And, obviously you talked on there, like me missing my friend. And I think friendship loss or friendship distance, whatever it is so painful that it's not something we kind of discuss very often, because we think, well, because there's that idea that you can just find some new friends. But actually, you know, like you said, the people that know you the best, or you've had these long histories with, it's very impactful if you don't get to see them on a regular basis.
Yeah. And they, you know, it feels like they're kind of like a safety net. So I guess it's like, actually thinking about it from, if you think about a child, you know, with attachment, so Bowlby's attachment theory and stuff. So if you have a child and you have the mum there or the dad there, and they've got a close bond with their mum or their dad, the child, like we're talking about little kids, they'll go off and they'll play and they'll be happy, they'll be fine. If they don't have that close attachment with their parent, or if their parent, they do, and that parent leaves the room, they become distressed. And it's kind of that thing that is right under the surface. Of course, we're not children and we don't need our parents in the same way, but we do need other people, and I think we need to feel like we belong.
Yeah.
And it can feel like quite novel. So at first I was like, yeah, I'm English, you know, ask me, I'm from England.
Yeah, yeah. Do you like
and
my
then
accent?
Yeah, do you like my accent? This is fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then it'd be like, oh my God, no one understands where I'm coming from with things. But yeah, and I think actually making friends later in life is something that we don't talk about either. I mean, I haven't known you that long, Giles, but I feel like we've been mates for years.
Yeah.
But we met on Zoom until I came down to see you, and then you saw how short I was, and I saw how tall you are.
Yeah, everyone thinks I'm much shorter than I actually am, but yeah.
Well, no, you are very tall. How tall are you?
6. I mean, well, I say only. I'm 6'2".
Yeah, I guess because I'm a midget. Well, I'm not a midget, and that's an insult to midgets. Apologies. I'm 5'6", but I'm 5'3", and so you just can't tell when you sit and talk to someone on Zoom.
No, of course not. No. But I think, I mean, like we said, there are benefits to, you know, things like social media and Zoom and things like that to connect with people. But those connections, I think, are just not in the same plane to having those physical.
No, and I think it's interesting because the woman who I think she was something to do with Tinder, maybe the founder of one of the dating apps, and she's created an AI mentor app, which we're actually going to build in that to Ochre. And I was like, oh, you know, maybe that's what you need. Maybe you just need the AI mentor, and it guides people on how they can navigate their relationship. So it is educating them. I'm like, well, is it really the thing that is going to make the difference in your life, though? Because are you going to sit down and say, this one person believed in me?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a magic that you can't replicate through any form of AI or anything like that. That's what I think. AI is a great tool, and it can be used to underpin stuff. But I think using it as a primary source of support or questioning or anything like that is not necessarily the best thing.
Well, like you say, that's the sort of the word, isn't it? It's a tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool to use. You know, I mean, there's obviously been a lot of talk around, and we're going off on a tangent about AI, but AI being this like intrusive thing that's going to come on, and that's, you know, and it's right to be cautious about these new technologies. But I guess at the end of the day, it is a tool. It's, you know, and it should be used as a tool.
Absolutely. And going off on one about AI, which I'll just do really briefly. It's been around for so long, and it's just like, you know, it's just because we're categorizing things as AI. And, you know, everyone you talk to in the founder space will say, I'm using AI. And you're like, okay, tell me about it. And you're like, is that really AI? Or arguably, even Google like searches AI. Anyway, going off at tangent. Friends.
Well, I was going to ask you something actually from a psychological point of view. Why do we need connection? What is it about us? You
could have warned me you were going to ask me that one. That's
it's a big question. It's a big question. Well, I'm just thinking, like, obviously there's a anthropological kind of thing to it, like our tribes and needing to work together and all that kind of stuff. But obviously in a more modern times, why do we still need to be connected to one another? What is it that makes us need to be connected to one another?
I think there's a scientific and a spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
The scientific being like our brains are the same as they were 40,000 years ago. So our brain doesn't know we don't need to belong to a tribe. Our brain goes, help, I need friends, I need to belong. And that doesn't change. And what I think we do is we kind of ignore that and try and live in the modern world as if it doesn't exist. And then we'll refer to it occasionally and go, oh, yes, people feeling lonely, people need belonging. But we're not actually thinking about it from a moment to moment, day to day type thing. So I think there's that. And then from a spiritual perspective, and this is a personal perspective, I just think we are so interconnected as humans with each other that we just don't feel whole unless we have meaningful connections with the people around us. Yeah, it's not the scientific side, but there's loads on the scientific side as well. There's an amazing guy here at UCLA who I spoke to for my second book, called Marco Iacoboni, and he's a brain scientist or head of brain sciences at UCLA, and he has done loads of work on empathy. And the thing that I love is that empathy is real in terms of science. You look at the brain, we have empathy. But he's also like proved that we're actually naturally, because there's a big debate, are we actually naturally giving and kind, or are we actually selfish? And then we act like we're giving and kind, or we do it for other means. There's scientific evidence of what he's done that I won't go into because it will bore you, on why we are actually naturally pro-social. So I love that, because I'm like, yeah, it's nicer, because I used to grapple with that when I looked at stuff that said, are we selfish as humans? I thought, oh, I don't like it. Just I don't know, it doesn't feel nice, does it?
Well, there's that philosophical question around, like you said, about kindness. Like, is there any genuine act of kindness because we get a
reward for
we get
it,
a reward? Yeah. Yes, exactly. So can you be like naturally kind, I guess is maybe the question. But obviously you can.
Well, it's funny because he basically isolated or not froze it, but just put it as froze at the moment, areas of the prefrontal cortex. So he was looking at the limbic system and the more primitive areas of the brain where we don't have any societal norms programmed in like we do with our prefrontal cortex. And so in that sense, you could argue actually it's societal norms that make us selfish rather than the way our brain is actually constructed. But like to your point about, are we naturally, it does give us something back. Well, it does, because it's kind of, but there's a symbiosis to it. I think it's like there's a beauty to it rather than it being something like, I've given you something, so I'm getting something back. There's more synchronicity to it than that.
Yeah, just going back to that, the selfish thing. I guess environment plays a big part of that as well. And
yeah, I mean, I think
cultural society, there's quite a lot of elements that would make you a selfish individual.
I'll tell you one thing that I heard the other day that really made me feel cross. So I met a guy the other night, and he's English, and his wife's an interior designer. And there are a lot of very expensive houses here. So she's working on houses that are 20-30 million dollars, sorry. And he said they get treated like the lowest of the low. So when she wanted to go to the loo one day, the owners were there and they made her go outside this house and use the portaloo. And I'm just like, do I really want to live in a place like that? But having said that, I don't live in a 20-30 million pound property or dollar property, and I have really lovely friendly neighbors. So, but I think to that point, money and status and the drive for those things can make people single-mindedly selfish without actually, and that's not fulfilling to them either.
No.
But they don't know why they're not fulfilled necessarily, because they might look around and think, well, I've got all this money, look at me, I'm great, and that'll make them feel a little bit good, but they're not feeling like properly fulfilled because they're being an a-hole.
There's a bit on your blog about navigating life through relationships.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice thing, that we navigate our own lives through the connections with others. And I going back to the idea that when you're missing someone as well, and that you can't sometimes navigate as well when that person's not there.
And it's really weird because I have felt really like I'm in a bit of a sort of fog, and I hadn't, although I've written about it in like how much we rely on that sort of thing, I hadn't actually properly experienced it. So it's the difference between knowing and doing a game, which I also have a massive gulf. But when we're assessing leaders, one of the things we're looking at is their problem solving style. And part of problem solving style, if it's missing, is a problem, is this intuition, it's this social read of situations, which allows us to be commercially savvy, because we pick up on all these tiny little things and piece them together in our mind without even realizing that's what we're doing. And so it literally does help us to navigate like either life or leadership or whatever it is. It's a massive part of, if you like, the data we collect. But it's not data, is it? But well, it is data.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I could keep talking about this.
Well, it's such it's a really rich area, because I think we've all probably experienced moments of friend sickness, whether it's because we've been away on a trip, or if we've moved somewhere else, or we've lost touch with someone as well. You know,
yeah,
we haven't really sort of even dived into that. But when, you know, when a friendship drifts, or sometimes we have friends for a season, they say, don't they? But that can be upsetting as well.
It can be. And really quickly, I have to tell you about, I think I might have told you before, Giles, but I'll tell everyone else about my friend Hazel. So Hazel was my best mate at infant school, and we used to do everything together, like Dance to Fame and things like that. But we used to do 3-legged race together, and that was one thing that really stuck in my memory. Hazel and I just worked well.
Yeah.
And then I remained friends. I moved around a lot, and I used to write to her, and then I'd see her, and then I lost contact with her when I was 13. And I think we just moved again, and it was just one too many times. And I used to think about her all the time, and I used to think, I kind of had this yearning for her. And then I tried to find her. I couldn't find her. I tried again, couldn't find her. And then one day, I can't remember. Oh, I do remember what triggered it, but we haven't got time to do that now. I just thought, I am going to find her. And I found her, and I spoke to her, and she's like, oh, I told my daughter all about you, and I've thought about you so often that I didn't know if you'd remember me. And I'm like, oh my God, how could I not remember you?
We did the 3-legged race together.
We did, but she was still thinking about the 3-legged race as well. But we've reconnected, and it is so special, and it's so bizarre because we hadn't seen each other for so many years, but we just fell back into being like great friends again.
Yeah, that's a special thing when you've got those certain people. I'm very lucky. Of my oldest friend Dave, who I went to primary school, he's moved back to the same town as me. Not that he lived far away; he was quite close anyway. But we've sort of stayed in touch the whole time. And now our kids all play together.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah. And, you know, it's just, you know, we've known each other since we were 7 years old. And there's something about that, isn't it? That shared history. He's been there for the good and the bad and all that stuff. And I know all about his like background and everything. We've shared a lot. And that is something special about that.
That is something really special, I think. And you can't replicate that in any brain scan. It's the magic of friendship. And on that note,
Yeah.
I think we're in danger of doing podcast episodes each time.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's going to take a whole hour of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I will speak to you again.
Yeah.